Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. The next topic that we're going to discuss is the Terraform Import command. We'll see what exactly it's all about and why it's being used. Terraform Import command is used to bring in the existing infrastructural components or resources that were not originally being created via Terraform or by Terraform under the Terraform's management. Now this allows you to manage these resources using Terraform's declarative configuration and state management. So let's imagine that you have some resources that were being pre-deployed or I would say that were being created or provisioned outside of the Terraform, which means that you use the manual method to provision those resources. And at that time, Terraform was not being used in your workflow. So after a few months or after a few weeks or after a few years, you thought that, okay, let's go with the IAC, infrastructure as code, tools like Terraform. And let's use the Terraform to manage those resources all together. Now, the problem is that those resources that are already being provisioned are not being or were not being provisioned by the Terraform. So there's no way for the Terraform to manage those resources. Hence, you need to have some methodology or certain prototypes or certain processes to follow so that any of the resources that were being provisioned outside of the Terraform, you can bring them under the Terraform's management. So for that, we use the Terraform import command. Now, to use the Terraform import command, you have to follow the process. I would say that if you want to import the resources which were originally or which were not originally created by the Terraform and you want to bring them under the Terraform's supervision or the management, then you have to follow the two-step procedure. The first step is that you have to configure a resource block for that resource that you want to import with some basic attributes. And then you have to run the command Terraform import, followed by the resource address, followed by the ID that's been given to that specific resource by your cloud provider. So you can see that you have to use, or I would say you have to execute these two steps. These are two main steps. You have to define the resources or resource in a Terraform configuration, and you have to execute the Terraform import command. So Terraform import followed by the resource address, followed by the cloud ID or the ID that's been given to you by the cloud provider. Now, of course, we have to verify and define the configuration afterwards that I will discuss once we start following the instructions out there. But these are the two main steps that you have to execute. You have to create a resource block first with the basic attributes. And the second thing is that you have to use the Terraform import command followed by the resource address and the ID that's been given to the resource by your cloud provider. So let's go ahead and let's create a folder real quick. So let's name it as TF import. And let's go ahead and we just go ahead and just copy and paste these two separate blocks out there. So we need to just, of course, create a configuration file, paste these two blocks, and just right click and run the command Terraform init to initialize this working directory, so that we can just go ahead and install the necessary provider plugins. Right, so I've just created a folder named as TF import with a main.tf file, and I just included Terraform and provider blocks and initialize the working directory so that we can get started with this new project out there. Well, let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and launch an instance manually via the AWS Maven console. So just go ahead and just go to the instance dashboard. And let's go ahead and launch this instance. I named this instance as demo underscore import underscore instance. So you just go ahead and put a simple tag value or just assign a name to it. You don't have to change the AMI. Instance type should be either t3.micro or t2.micro. I'm using the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. So this is the free tier eligible AMI, so you don't have to change it. What I'm saying is that you can use any of the free tier eligible AMIs. Instance type is t3.micro, t2.micro. Key pair login, we'll just proceed without a key pair. We don't need any key pair as of now. Security group, we'll just, I would say, create a new one. And we allow the SSH traffic from anywhere. We don't have to just, I would say, configure all the details. We just have to accept, or we just have to apply the basic attribute or basic configuration. That's the only thing that we have to go with. What I'm saying is that the instance type should be basic. You don't have to go detailed, or you don't have a deep dive in and you have to go for a detailed configuration. So only the basic configuration is more than sufficient as of now. So everything looks perfect. The only thing that I've put in, or the only thing that you have to stress on, is that you just stack the instance. You go with one of the free tier eligible AMIs, which means that I'm using the Amazon Linux AMI. You can just go with this one. Instance type, either use t2.micro or t3.micro, because these are the free tier eligible instance types. Key pair, proceed without a key pair. And for the security group, you can just accept this, create a new one, create security group, and allow the SSH traffic from all the sources. I think that's more than sufficient. We just click on launch instance, and the instance will get launched eventually. Now, why did I launch this instance outside of the Terraform? Because we want to replicate a scenario that there could be certain possibilities that there's some resources that are already being pre-deployed before you introduce Terraform in your workflow or in your environment. So let's suppose you're using AWS infrastructure for almost 1 year now, and after 1 year, you start using Terraform to deploy the resources. So in that span of 1 year before you use the Terraform, you may have hundreds of resources running, or thousands of resources already running. Now, because these resources were not being deployed via the Terraform, Terraform has no clue about these resources. Terraform is not managing these resources because these resources were deployed outside of the Terraform. So to bring in those resources under the Terraform's management, you have to follow these different instructions and steps out there. You have to make use of Terraform import command. So we're just trying to replicate the same scenario. We have just launched an instance outside of the Terraform. We didn't use Terraform to launch this instance. So now the next step, the next procedure is that we want to first thing first create a basic resource block for this instance with the basic attributes. Let's go ahead and let's create a resource block, and just create a resource block for the AWS underscore instance resource type, and name this as, for example, demo underscore imported underscore instance. Now this could be anything. All right. Now I just go ahead and include. Now we can just include some basic attributes if we want. It's all up to us. But let's do one thing. Let's try to. So we just created a resource block, right? We just did that. Let's clear everything out, and let's run the command Terraform import followed by the resource address. Now, what is the resource address in this case? The resource type, which is the AWS underscore instance, dot the resource name, followed by the instance ID, or the ID that's been given to my resource by the cloud provider. I'm talking about this thing. This is the instance ID, right? It's being displayed. So this is my instance ID. I just copy the instance ID of the instance that is being launched outside of Terraform. Let's copy this thing and let's paste it. Let's try to execute this command and see if it works. And as you can see that it says import prepared, and this is being imported. The import is successful, right? It's a basic resource block, as if now I didn't include any attributes right now, but this instance is being successfully imported. Now you must be figuring out, okay, I just did I just followed the procedure and I ran Terraform import command to import this instance, but where that instance is. Well, this is being imported, or all the things are being included in your Terraform state file. So all your instance attributes, the resource attributes and values are being successfully imported to your Terraform state file, right? So Terraform state file is now tracking this instance now. If I run the command Terraform, let's run the command Terraform state list. It will show me the list of resources being tracked by the Terraform. Now, as you can see that this resource is being now tracked by the Terraform state or Terraform state file. This means that now this is under the Terraform supervision. I've successfully imported the instance, which was originally not being deployed via the Terraform. And now this is being managed by the Terraform state. Now, is this sufficient? The answer is no. Because if you see your configuration block, or if you see your config file and your resource block, your configuration, this is kind of empty. So the problem is that if it is try to run, let's suppose I just go ahead and say, let's run the Terraform plan. Terraform plan will show me that that this resource block is empty, or for example, it will just try to provision something by itself. Let's run the Terraform plan and see what's going on. Now, you will see that once I run the Terraform plan, it's trying to figure out something. Because when we run the Terraform plan, it just tries to create an execution plan based on the Terraform state file and the configuration file. Now, the Terraform state file has all the attributes imported, but this resource configuration block or resource block inside my Terraform configuration is completely blank. So it's trying to figure out exactly what's going on because this resource block is empty. So what I want to stress is that whenever you just try to, or whenever you import something to your Terraform state, you have to make sure that the resource block that's there in your configuration file, it should have some basic attributes that closely match the imported state attributes. So I've imported these attributes, right? What attributes I'm talking about? These are all the attributes only, right? For example, the tag, and for example, the AMI, the instance type, right? These are the basic attributes. So you have to make sure that you include these basic attributes in your resources block. So the imported states attribute, the basic one at least, should closely match the one that you have to include in your resources block in your config file. To cut the story short, what you have to do is that you have to specify the AMI, the exact AMI value that you have imported. The instance type, of course, instance type is t3.micro. We all know that we use this one. And of course, you can just switch back and forth between your Terraform state file and config file and see exactly that what are the attributes you had imported. So of course, this is the AMI. I can just copy this thing I just copy this value and include the AMI. All right. What about the tags? Tags, I can just copy and paste that from the Terraform state file. So these are the imported attributes that I'm copying and pasting in my resources block itself in my config file. So that's important, right? Because it has to closely match it. It has to closely match the resources configuration basic attributes. Otherwise, it will just run into kind of a endless loop because it's not able to understand exactly what that resource block is all about. So in terms of tags, this is the tag value. Let's copy this thing. Let's go ahead and just paste it. And that's it. That's it. If I just clear everything out, I'm sorry. So let's clear the terminal to clear the clutter. Let's run the Terraform FMT to make sure that we format the file properly with the white space and indentation. And Terraform validate command also needs to be run to validate everything. In terms of the syntactical and logical validity, everything should be perfectly all right. And now if I just run the command Terraform plan, I don't think it will show me anything that it's missing out something or it's missing some arguments. So let's wait and watch. And it's refreshing the state. It's trying to just match the attributes that we have imported in the state file and the attributes that are mentioned in the configuration file. Now, there's one thing that it is saying, that is that one to change. Okay, one to change. So what it's saying is that I think the thing that it's trying to change is the name of the tag. So if I just go and see, I guess what could be the issue is that this is all right. So if I'll do one thing. I just go ahead and just keep this tag value as it is. So I have to just modify my tag name and run the Terraform plan one more time so that it can refresh the Terraform state, matches the Terraform state attributes with this resources attributes or resources block attributes. So as you can see that as I match the exact configuration, especially the tag name, the Terraform plan shows me that there are no changes that need to be executed or no set of changes were proposed, right? So what does this indicate? This is very important that once you import the resources, or the goal after importing is to have a Terraform configuration that perfectly matches the imported resources attributes, so the Terraform plan shows no changes or no missing arguments, right? So it's not that you just follow the procedure to import your resources and you're done. Because when you import resources attributes, those resources attributes, the basic one at least, should match the one that are mentioned in your resources block. Because if you just run the Terraform plan or Terraform apply operation, then in that case, it will showcase you an error message, or if you just try to change something or modify something. So to make sure that you don't fall into that trap, or you don't face these type of issues going forward in terms of managing the resources, it's always the best practice that once you follow all the procedures or the two-step procedure to import your resources, run Terraform plan at least once to ensure that everything is clean. Nothing needs to be modified or nothing needs to be changed. Okay. So to summarize everything, anything that's being deployed outside of the Terraform, you can easily bring those resources within the Terraform's management or Terraform's sphere of management or knowledge by using Terraform import. You have to follow the two-step procedure. Number one is that you have to create a basic resource block with the basic attributes. Then you have to run the command Terraform import, followed by the resource address, followed by the cloud ID or the ID of that resource. Then once you're done with this thing, once your resource is being imported, you just check your Terraform state file and it will show you the imported resources attributes. Thereafter, run the Terraform plan and see that what are the attributes that are missing in your resources block. You just have to copy and paste those attribute values from the TF state file, Terraform state file. And finally, once you're done, run Terraform plan again to make sure that no changes are required. So this will ensure that there are no set of proposed changes that you have to make once you run the Terraform plan command, because you have to run this command to perform certain executions going forward, right? So this is quite crucial. So you have to make sure that once you import the resources, then the Terraform configuration should perfectly match the imported resources attributes so that the Terraform plan does not show any changes or set of proposed changes. So that's all about this thing. And of course, once you are done, you have to destroy everything. So I'll just go ahead and destroy. So Terraform apply and destroy. And of course, we have to give the command auto approve. So let's go ahead and auto approve the destruction of this resource out there. And once we are done, then of course, this project is finished, or this demo is finished. So that's all about the Terraform import command. I hope this video was informative. Thank you so very much.